Hey, just checking in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Scott Jennings is at Georgetown University today.
Okay, I've got you.
I saw right head onto the table.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Scott Jennings is at Georgetown today.
My child said, I hope that you're able for. But I'm telling you, she knows where it's at.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
And everybody's kind of too long. I jumped out of doors and table. Well, I heard somebody shooting the dawn. Brother Lee was hung from my left hand. A machine was a hole of my right. And I told her, don't get scared, cause you're gonna be spared. I've got to be for people if I wanna stand my living with the wrong woman in a black dress.
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 7 minutes and 30 seconds. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 7 minutes. On the Salem Radio Network returns 6 minutes and 30 seconds.
You know, baby, it's the guitar man. He can make you love, he can make you cry. He will bring you down, get you high. Some keep going miles and miles a day.
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Network returns from break in 6 minutes.
Night after night, treat you right, baby, it's the guitar man. Who's on the radio? You don't listen to the guitar man. Then he comes to town and you see his face, and you think you might.
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 5 minutes and 30 seconds.
Miles and miles away, searching for the songs to play. Then you listen to the music and you like to sing along. You want to get the meaning out of each and every song.
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 5 minutes.
Words to call your own and take them home. He can make you
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 4 minutes and 30 seconds.
Something keeps him moving, but no one seems to know what it is that makes him go. Then the lights begin to flicker and the sound is getting dim.
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 4 minutes.
The crowds are getting thin, but he never seems to notice. He's just got to find another place to play. Get away.
Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
I'm low. Okay. Let me turn up a little. How about now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, let me turn it back up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I mean, no. Tell me what you want it to be. Like I have.
Okay.
Misty just sent clip. Hegseth. Second clip will probably be CNN gas price.
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return in 1 minute. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 45 seconds. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 30 seconds. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 15 seconds.
Oh, clock. Well, Sean, so I'm tracking 49.
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio.
51, 52.
Yeah, dead on.
All right.
He's not just a conservative voice at CNN. He's the last man standing athwart the leftist mob, delivering the fiery truth, surrounded, outnumbered, still undefeated. Fighting for free speech, Western civilization, and delivering common sense for the American people. Ladies and gentlemen, here's Scott Jennings.
All right, it's Tuesday, December the 2nd, coming to you live from the campus of Georgetown University in your nation's capital, Washington, D.C. It is the Scott Jennings Show here on the Salem Radio Network. As always, the Scott Jennings Show is sponsored by Ease Total Health. Health insurance is broken, and Ease fixes it with no deductibles, no red tape, and real benefits from day one. You can visit Ease, that's EASE, foreveryone.com/Scott. And I'm just going to go on a little more about our friends at Ease because, as you know, health insurance has been in the news lately. And folks have been hearing me say, hey, what is Ease Total Health? They're sponsoring your show. Well, I'm going to tell you about it. I have good news about healthcare. If you're frustrated with your health insurance, if you feel like you've got runaway premiums and deductibles and benefits that don't really do what you need them to do for your family, I encourage you to check out Ease. It's not traditional insurance. In my opinion, it's much, much better. It is a set of benefits that you can use from day one. They don't have deductibles. They don't restrict what doctors or hospitals that you can use. They have a range of options to fit every need and every budget. I cannot list all the benefits here, but you can find them by going to easeforeveryone.com/Scott or call them up, 888-EASE-123. Don't wait for the government or big insurance to bail you out. They won't. I have my doubts about whether they'll even fix it, ever. But Ease for Everyone might work for you. easeforeveryone.com/Scott. 888-EASE-123. We've got a great show for you today. 22 minutes past the hour. Brent Gardner, our friend from Americans for Prosperity, will join, kick around the news of the day. 33 minutes, Congressman Russell Fry, good friend of the show from South Carolina. He's going to join to talk about where the Republicans are headed from a policy perspective in the next year and for the rest of this month. And we're also going to talk a little bit about this special election that's going on down in Tennessee. We'll get election results tonight. Some Republicans are nervous about this. This is a Trump plus 20 district, and the Democrats think they have a chance with this radical Looney Tunes they've nominated. So we'll see what Russell Fry thinks about that. First, let's do some news. Breaking news today. New York Attorney General Tish James and former FBI Director James Comey, well, it seems they may not be off the hook just yet. You know, a judge had tossed out their previous indictments the other day over procedural issues, but word out of the Department of Justice today is that they are expecting to re-indict both James and Comey, perhaps within the week. Also just into the show, President Trump's advisors, Steve Witkoff and his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, are meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin in the Kremlin today to try to convince Putin to support the peace plan that Trump has put forward for Ukraine. So we'll keep an eye on this news. I have low expectations, but hope springs eternal for peace in Ukraine. New details are coming out about the administration's attacks on narco-terrorist boats off the coast of Venezuela. So the Washington Post first reported that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth had ordered a lethal second strike against a boat on September the 2nd to kill two of these terrorists still clinging to the wreckage of a boat that had been hit in an initial strike. This, of course, set off the predictable round of outrage among Democrats claiming the Trump administration had broken the law. But wait, the New York Times has come along and followed up on this and determined that the Washington Post narrative is false. That's not what happened. They say that Hegseth never ordered a second strike at all, and Trump and Hegseth in the president's cabinet meeting today both said they did not know about the second strike. Of course, this won't stop the narrative. Once the left gets going, they never let the facts get in the way of the momentum of a narrative they'd like to get out there. Let's listen to Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Here's what he had to say in the cabinet meeting today about the ongoing operations to stop these narco-terrorists.
Only just begun striking narco boats and putting narco terrorists at the bottom of the ocean because they've been poisoning the American people. And Joe Biden tried to approach it with kid gloves and allow them to come across the border. Cartels take over community, 20 million people, hundreds of thousands of Americans poisoned. And President Trump said, no, we're taking the gloves off. We're taking the fight to these designated terror organizations. And it's exactly what we're doing. So
reports are that President Trump has given Venezuelan president and drug lord Nicolas Maduro an ultimatum. Leave the country or face the consequences. Now, the United States doesn't recognize Maduro as the legitimate president of Venezuela, and he is under federal indictment in the United States for being a drug lord. So we'll keep an eye on this, what happens in Venezuela. The unfolding corruption scandal in Minnesota has now attracted the attention of the U.S. Treasury Secretary. Scott Bessent says he will investigate whether millions upon millions of dollars were scammed by the Somali diaspora in Minneapolis and sent back to Somalia, specifically winding up in the hands of the al-Shabaab terrorist group there. Governor Tim Walz up there is said by some to have ignored whistleblowers and even retaliated against whistleblowers. The entire scheme cost taxpayers upwards of $1 billion. This story is unfolding, and we're going to keep an eye on this in the days and weeks ahead. Cost of living news, gas prices are down, way down. Here's how CNN is calling it.
So for the first time in 4.5 years, gas prices are averaging $3 a gallon nationally, according to AAA, down by 7 cents in just the past week. Gas prices were low a year ago as well, but they're even cheaper now.
Good news for Trump there amid larger questions of affordability swirling in our politics. And you know, something I was wondering over Thanksgiving weekend, what happened to the Epstein Files story? It just up and disappeared. And I think it's because the smartest person in the Democratic Party, Jasmine Crockett, sort of destroyed it, didn't she? She tried to smear Republicans by claiming they'd received donations from Epstein. Turns out it was a different Jeffrey Epstein. She imploded on CNN trying to double down on it. Well, she went back to MSNBC this weekend to try again, and it was an absolute cluster. I want you to hear the whole thing. Here's Jasmine Crockett on MSNBC.
Congresswoman, it wouldn't be a conversation with us if I didn't quickly put you on the spot on something. You made a little bit of news last week when you mistakenly accused Lee Zeldin, another Republican.
I didn't mistakenly.
Money from Jeffrey Epstein, but it was a different Jeffrey Epstein, according to the financial records. Do you want to? I want to give you the opportunity to amend that. And
I have no amendments. When I was on the floor, for those that don't know how it works, basically they decided to bring this privilege motion up. And they decided that they wanted to kick Stacey off of her committees because Stacey had received Stacey Plaskett because she had received a donation from Jeffrey Epstein. I had maybe 20 minutes. We researched the FEC, and because I like to speak with specificity, that's kind of what comes with being an attorney. I made clear that there was a Jeffrey Epstein. They knew on the other side that I did not have time to actually pull up and actually research, especially since that particular one that Lee Zeldin got up in an uproar about was specifically out of the New York area. We know that he was out of that area. So, and this obviously was not done post Jeffrey Epstein's life. So I made sure that I said a Jeffrey Epstein.
And you were trying to insinuate that it was a the.
Oh, I absolutely was insinuating that it could be possible. That is true. But the point is, I never said that it was that specific one because I did not have the adequate time to do it. And so the Jeffrey Epstein has stepped forward, and that's not like, you know, a normal name. And I think that what would have been problematic is if I would have claimed that, say, that happened and it legitimately never happened. So ultimately, he cleared the record. I have not researched further. I've not talked to this doctor.
But you can agree that Lee Zeldin didn't receive money.
I can agree that Lee Zeldin has said that he's not received money from the Jeffrey Epstein. Absolutely.
Okay, so Jasmine Crockett, A, is the smartest person in the Democratic Party, and B, has forgotten the number one rule of politics. When you're in a hole, stop digging. It's the Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network. You know, we get letters here from our satisfied customers of Relief Factor. Let's meet one. His name's Bob. He's 63. Spent 40 years as a body man and a car painter. Bob says, I could barely walk. I couldn't go up the stairs. By day 4 or 5, I felt the change. After 8 days on Relief Factor, I was 75% better. I'm comfortable now, and I am thoroughly impressed. You know what's going on in the Jennings household. I told you yesterday, my mom's like, you got to stop giving your dad this Relief Factor. He's going crazy in here. They love it. Mom's using it now. It's crazy. These kinds of transformations cannot be ignored. Here's what you should do. Try the 3-week quick start today. Visit relieffactor.com or call 1-800-4RELIEF. Coming up, Brent Gardner from Americans for Prosperity. And after that, Congressman Russell Fry from South Carolina. Common sense for the American people. Scott Jennings here on the Salem Radio Network. The literal best. You. Oh, you. Of course I am.
Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 4 minutes.
All I want is a remedy for all of the things that I need. Ooh, I would take please.
Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
Baby, why you got no hair? Why you always keep with your mother's hair?
Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes.
Tell me, did the other troubles going on? If I come on like a dream, ooh, let me
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
oh, I want is a remedy for all of the things that leave me. I would surely take a note to please
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 2 minutes. Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 1 minute and 30 seconds.
I need a remedy, yeah. For what's wrong, you see, I need a remedy for myself and I'm free. I need a remedy, yeah, for myself and me.
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return in 1 minute. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 45 seconds. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 30 seconds. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 15 seconds. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 5 seconds.
He's the author of the best-selling book, A Revolution of Common Sense. Here's Scott Jennings.
Tuesday, December the 2nd, Common Sense for the American People. And this just ended the Scott Jennings Show. We were just discussing Jasmine Crockett from Texas at the end of our news block, and it seems Crockett has scheduled a news conference for next Monday. She says she's got a big announcement to make. My money's on running for the Senate. And I'll just say if she runs for the Senate, as a Democrat in Texas, she will win the party primary. Hope springs eternal. Brent Gardner from Americans for Prosperity is here. Brent, I don't know if you want to react to the Jasmine Crockett news, but I think she's the smartest Democrat alive and the best spokesperson for their movement. What do you think?
Well, I'll be tuned in and I'll hang on every word. I'll tell you that much right now.
Well, thanks for coming on the show today. And a lot of political stuff going on. A lot of it swirling around the topic of affordability. And I know you have some thoughts on this.
Yeah.
Republicans are trying to decide in the Congress, how should we be discussing these issues? Trump talked a little bit about it at the cabinet meeting today. Vance today said, we need more time. What's your view on how Republicans and conservatives should be approaching this issue of affordability and cost of living?
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is what ushered Republicans in after 4 years of bad Biden economic policies. It's clear that this was the thing that Republicans won on in the first place. It's also important to remember that, while Democrats are trying to claim the mantle today of the question of affordability, at the end of the day, every single one of them put their name on the line to vote for the largest additional tax increase in American history. Truthfully, there are some things that Republicans still need to do to be able to prove to the American people that they've kept their commitment. And I think there's some good stuff on the horizon, things like energy permitting, fixing our broken healthcare system. But it's laughable that Democrats are continuing to talk about how they care of affordability when we've seen the largest inflation in almost anyone's lifetimes under Democratic rule.
Now, you brought up this issue of permitting, and as I understand it, the House Committee on Natural Resources has a piece of legislation sitting in it they still need to mark up, right? It's a permitting bill, and if they mark that up and get it to the floor, sort of what would be the results of this? How would this impact the American economy?
Yeah, well, I think, listen, at the end of the day, energy price costs are a key input to everything that we do, whether it's the production of something, the conversion of raw materials into finished goods, or ultimately the transportation to marketplace. And whether it's the SPEED Act or whether it's some of the proposals that exist in the Senate, I think it's clear, not just to Republicans on this, but Democrats also, that the challenges that we've created in our permitting systems have continued to hold back the American economy. I think it's important to recognize on this one, this isn't just a Republican issue. Whether you are a Republican that supports Donald Trump, that wants to see a reindustrialization of America, whether you are on the left and you want to see an electrification of the surface transportation fleet, regardless of who you are, the challenge of having enough energy is something that hits everybody. They recognize that the question of abundance is one that we really haven't addressed, and permitting is a big impediment to getting the things that we need out there, which is baseload generation, transmission, to be able to get that to people who need that power, and then ultimately the reliability and affordability of it to use it in this country. And so these types of legislative activities are the things we need.
And the other issue on this topic that of affordability that obviously is coming to a head is this Affordable Care Act subsidies. They're still set to expire at the end of the month now, and the Republicans haven't really said how they're going to tackle it. Some things have been thrown out there. If you were advising them, what should they do? Extend the subsidies? Not extend the subsidies? Where we ought to go with this?
Yeah, good news is Congress doing nothing as their core capability is the biggest ask we have right now. There's no need to continue to try and support these Biden-era, COVID-era subsidies, which are effectively just a handout to the big insurance companies. At the end of the day, the expiration of these was passed exclusively by Democrats. The expiration date was passed by Democrats twice. Ultimately, Republicans need to let these things expire like they were intended to do, even by Democrats, which they don't like to talk about a whole lot right now. Look, their healthcare system has a need for reforms. We need things like HSAs. We need to ensure that we have things like site-neutral payments. What we don't need to continue to do is to continue to double down on the types of policy decisions which have led to higher premiums and have led to worse healthcare outcomes. And I think letting these things expire is the first step, and then there's a lot that we can do to improve healthcare in America.
It sounds like you might be favorable on the Trump idea, and Bill Cassidy and others have said, let's just give money directly to consumers and to their HSA. Sounds like maybe that's something they're still talking about, although I guess they really haven't coalesced around a final plan here, but we'll see what happens. Brent Gardner is our friend from Americans for Prosperity. You can find out more from them on these issues and a lot more. Go to americansforprosperity.org. Brent, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Scott.
All right, take care. Coming up, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk to our friend, Congressman Russell Fry from South Carolina. Friend of the show, been on a couple of times, a great up-and-coming member of the House Republican Conference. We'll see what he thinks about these issues and talk a little about the Tennessee special election coming up tonight. It's Common Sense for the American people. Scott Jennings here on the Salem Radio Network.
Portions of the Scott Jennings Show are sponsored in part by Americans for Prosperity.
Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 5 minutes.
I've been lied to, and I don't know why. That mean woman made me a fool. She took all my money.
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 4 minutes and 30 seconds.
Now she's the one good time, but it's drinking in some first town. Sometimes I feel, sometimes I feel like I've been blind.
Hey, Sean, I've got an incoming clip for you guys.
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 4 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, I just emailed you a clip I'd like to pull up.
For loving you, throw myself in sorrow. Look what you've done.
And Sean, I'm going to send you one
Nothing
more
seems to
picture,
change.
okay?
The bad times stay the same. And I,
Yeah, I'm just going to...
sometimes I feel.
All right.
The Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network in 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Feel like I'm dying.
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 2 minutes.
I think, Angel's here right after.
Okay.
We're waiting on Russell Fry.
He's there.
Oh, right.
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 1 minute and 30 seconds. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return in 1 minute. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 45 seconds. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 30 seconds. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 15 seconds. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 5 seconds.
Ready for more common sense? Here's CNN senior political commentator, New York Times best-selling author, and America's favorite political pundit, Scott Jennings.
It won't be long. December the 2nd, Scott Jennings here on the Salem Radio Network. Coming up in just a moment, our friend, Congressman Russell Fry of South Carolina will join us. Something's going on the House floor, by the way. I got to ask Russell about this in a second. But first, today is recognized worldwide as Giving Tuesday. It's the Tuesday after Thanksgiving when nonprofit organizations receive donations from generous people just like you to help fund their important work. For us here on the Scott Jennings Show, that means Prison Fellowship's Angel Tree Christmas Program. That's our big mission around here. With your donation of only $30 or more, the volunteers at the Prison Fellowship immediately connect with another boy or girl who's got a mom or a dad in prison. They put in motion what has to happen to make that child have a special Christmas. Your donation blesses one of these young ones with a present, a gospel message, and a personalized note from their incarcerated parent. And on this special Giving Tuesday, I'm going to take you inside one of these prisons, the Central California Women's Correctional Facility in Chowchilla, where inmates decorated the prison's visitor center to make it more welcoming when the children arrived to attend a Christmas party where they received their gifts. This event was covered by the local ABC TV affiliate there. Let's listen.
It's all part of the Angel Tree program. Children wrote down what they wanted. The Prison Fellowship then got them. Inmates then selected gifts.
These women were able to come in the gymnasium and shop the gifts. And then after they shop for the gifts, they were able to wrap them.
The outcome is a holiday extravaganza that families won't soon forget.
So here is a question. Where else, other than our Angel Tree Christmas program, can you turn just $30 into that kind of love for boys and girls who, through no fault of their own, will be missing mom and dad on Christmas? For $150, you can bless 5 deserving children. If we are to reach, I should say, the thousands of kids who are waiting, I need your help today. All you have to do is go to scottjenningsshow.com and click on the Angel Tree banner or call them up. Phone your gift, 888-206-2793. That's 888-206-2793. It is Giving Tuesday. You can bless these deserving boys and girls with a generous donation to our Angel Tree campaign. It's Scott Jennings here on the Salem Radio Network. I'm pleased to welcome in our friend, Congressman Russell Fry of South Carolina. Russell, welcome back to the Scott Jennings Show.
Scott, great to be here. Thanks for having me, man. Thanks for what you do too. It's important. It's important dialogue.
Well, I appreciate your kind words and all that you do for the conservative cause. And it was fun to be with you earlier this year down in Myrtle Beach, and I've enjoyed our friendship this year. I have to ask you, I've been watching the news roll in here. Something's going on the House floor. Seems like the Republicans are having trouble passing a rule that would enable you all to do business this week. Can you give us a little update from the floor about what's happening today?
Yeah, I don't know why. I think there's 2 members, maybe right now 3. Rule bills are, just for your listeners, to set the terms of debate, right? They set the terms of debate, how long Democrats can talk, how long Republicans can talk. You need a rule in order to debate a bill. And so I'm not sure what the holdup is. It might be on the sports thing, might be some small components of it, but we will see. But we've got important work to do. This rule and other things we've got going on this week. So this happens from time to time where there's internal Thanksgiving-like family discussions that get heated, and I have confidence that they'll work through it and get back to work.
All right, yeah, we need Republicans on the floor this week talking about a bunch of different issues, and I guess I'll start there. What is your expectation for the Republicans this week and for the rest of December? What is at the top of your agenda? What would you like to see the party focus on here over the next few weeks?
Well, I think it's important when Republicans took control of Congress in 2022, they said they want to get back to regular order. And what does that mean? That means that we pass actual appropriations bills, that we don't continue to govern by continuing resolution. Continuing resolutions are great for temporary stopgaps, but for a long time, even before I got here, they were used as a leadership way of getting around the appropriations process, doing exactly whatever you wanted to do. If you were in leadership, it really deprived members and their constituents of the ability to talk about what we're spending, how we're spending it, what we're spending it on. So getting back to regular order was always, I think, a Republican initiative. At this point, we've passed and signed into law 3 or 4 of the 12 appropriations bills. Getting through those for the rest of the year, I think, is really important. Keep teaming that up, getting back to regular order. People and through their representatives should be able to vote up or down on provisions of government spending. And I think so far we're holding to that. We had that temporary, obviously, that shutdown, but the whole idea of the temporary CR was to lengthen the time a little bit to get these appropriations bills out. And so I think for the rest of the year, that's up. The NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, is up. That's huge as we contend with issues at home, troop pay, things like that, safety, equipment that needs to be purchased as we respond to threats around the world that may exist with increasingly hostile China and things like that. It's important that we pass that. That's probably the bandwidth for the rest of the year, the big stuff.
And we still have this issue looming of the healthcare subsidies that are going to expire at the end of the month. That was part of the big debate over the government shutdown. We've heard some proposals from some Republicans, including President Trump, that maybe we ought to just bypass the insurance companies and put money directly into health savings accounts. But these things expire at the end of the month. What's your expectation here? What would you like to see happen? And where do you think the party ought to take this debate?
I think it's a novel idea, right? First of all, let's back up too, Scott. These were, Democrats say that it's going to affect millions and millions of people, 40 million people. It's not that many, right? Like it's not that much. Does it affect people? Sure, but these were enhancements provided just by Democrats during COVID because they couldn't otherwise get the votes to do it. And what happened? Every healthcare professional, every economist in the world said if you subsidize and you create Obamacare, you're going to make people's premiums go up. And what happened? It went up. When you do this, they did this again during COVID to give these enhanced Obamacare credits, what happened? The premiums went up. In fact, they're up 80% since the year, I think, 2000. It's remarkable. Nothing is up that much in that time frame. And so for me, I think the president actually brings up a pretty novel issue is the insurance companies have used this as a cudgel to continue to get that gravy train money. There's no oversight. There's fraud in the system. There has been for a long time. There are millionaires that are on these Obamacare subsidies because they can hide their income and they take part in this. There are illegal immigrants, again, that are on this. And so there's problems with it. But I kind of like the choice aspect. That to the extent that you're even going to do this, why not neuter the Obamacare subsidies a little bit and give people the choice if they qualify for this, give people the choice on what market they want to go into, where they want to go. I think it's kind of a novel concept, but it really, I think it really highlights the frustration that many people have with these insurance companies because they've not done a ton to control costs. And these subsidies just continually pad, their bottom line.
Let me switch gears to Venezuela. This is obviously in the news this week because of some reporting about the bombings that we're doing on these narco-terrorists. In fact, let me play some sound. This just happened in the cabinet meeting that President Trump is having at the White House. Here's Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth commenting on the operations against narco-terrorists. Here's Hegseth.
Stand by saying, as President Trump always has our back, we always have the back of our commanders who are making decisions in difficult situations, and we do in this case and all these strikes. They're making judgment calls and ensuring that they defend the American people. They've done the right things. We'll keep doing that, and we have their backs, Mr. President.
Good job. Thank you very much. So we set out to stop the ripoff of the United States.
Okay, so that was Hegseth, and obviously the reporting on this one strike on September the 2nd, the boat was hit. There was a second strike. There was some back and forth about who ordered that. As a member of Congress, where are you on this? Do you support the administration taking out these narco-terrorists? Would you like to hear more from them about how they're doing it? Where do you sit on this right now, Russell?
I think information is always good, but here's the deal: our intelligence. We know that Venezuela is a narco terrorist state. We know that they are funding and fueling America's addiction. They are pushing these drugs into our streets, and that people are dying. I think the president rightly is trying to send all the signals that he can that we're not going to tolerate this anymore. I mean, gone are the days of lawlessness with the Biden administration, where they just flung open the borders and allowed everything in, including people who we don't know, drugs who poison our communities, human traffickers. And so I think the president's taking a really aggressive stance on dealing with Venezuela and the drugs that they're fueling. This again, when they say narco terrorist state, they are using illegal substances to prop up their own government in a once vibrant and wealthy South American country, by the way. But now, so the president's taken this very hard approach, and I like it. I think people are tired of drugs coming into their communities. I think people are tired of the death and the destruction by illicit fentanyl that's poisoning our kids. Everybody knows somebody who has overdosed on fentanyl that they never knew was in whatever substance they were taking, right? And so the president, I think, rightly, is saying enough's enough. We're not going to tolerate this from the cartels. The cartels have used the border with impunity. They've just gone through it. We're not going to tolerate this from states that sponsor this activity in the United States. So taking out these votes, I think, was a pretty prudent step. And certainly applaud the administration for doing that. It's common sense, right?
Yeah, well, I think you're right on the politics of it. I think the American people want a more muscular response. I mean, we see these drugs flowing over the border. They come from Venezuela. They come up through other places in South America. Now, the president made the point today that they've seen like a 91% drop in some of this drug activity coming in by sea. I have no doubt that this has had the desired deterrent impact on narco terrorists. They used to think they could get away with it. Now they think they might get blown out of the water. I mean, that's part of the point. Of course, the other issue going on here, Russell, and I'm going to leave it at this, and we'll take a break and we'll discuss it on the other side, is whether we're going to take the next step and overthrow or aid in the overthrow of the Venezuelan regime. Maduro is the president. We don't really recognize him as the president. He's under indictment in the United States for being a drug lord, and we got a pretty big military buildup going on down there, and there's indications the president's told him, you better get out or face the consequences. That voice you've been hearing is Russell Fry, congressman from South Carolina. I'm Scott Jennings. It's the Salem Radio Network. We're going to take a quick break. First, though, a word from our friends at the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. Winter is coming in war-torn Ukraine. Elderly Jews like Maria there facing a brutal winter and a constant search for food. She's 85. She lives alone. She's nearly blind, and she suffers from a broken hip. She survived the Holocaust, but there's a real question about whether she'll survive the Ukrainian winter. She's still in her childhood home, no indoor plumbing, no heat, bitterly cold. Barely enough food to survive. The hunger for people like Maria is unbearable. That's why I am deeply grateful for what the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews can do for her. For over 40 years, they've been sending boxes with nutritious food and supplies to impoverished Jews just like Maria. To help them out and to learn more, visit urgentifcj.org. That's urgentifcj.org. More with Russell Fry, congressman from South Carolina. When we come back, common sense for the American people. It's Scott Jennings on the Salem Radio Network.
Maybe I'll be fast to you.
The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 2 minutes. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 1 minute and 30 seconds. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return in 1 minute. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 45 seconds. Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 30 seconds. The Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 15 seconds. Scott Jennings Show on the Salem Radio Network will return from break in 5 seconds.
Saving Western civilization. One busted narrative. It's the Scott Jennings Show.
Congressman Russell Fry from South Carolina is our special guest. I'm going to actually ask him about migration, immigration, mass migration, and the crisis that we face here in the West in just a moment. But first, a quick word from our friends at Americans for Free Markets. They are hot on this issue of debanking. Now, you know what this is, where financial institutions under pressure from partisan regulators basically deny you financial services. This happened during the Biden administration. Now, President Trump came in and signed an executive order on this, and it's designed to stop this politically motivated debanking and to ensure fair access to banking for every American nationwide, despite or whatever their political affiliations may be. But the only way to permanently deal with this is for Congress to work with the administration to fix these outdated laws, increase transparency, and codify the president's executive order. Our friends at Americans for Free Markets calling on Congress to advance these critical reforms and strengthen the president's leadership on fair access to financial services. Learn more about how to protect free markets and ensure fair access to banking for all Americans at forfreemarkets.org, forfreemarkets.org. It's Scott Jennings on the Salem Radio Network. Congressman Russell Fry, let's listen here to Secretary of State Marco Rubio. We're talking a lot about who's in the country and why right now. I want to hear from Rubio and then get your reaction.
And I can go down the list. Why has he focused on mass migration? It's very simple, because no country you can just walk in without us knowing who you are in the country. Many other world trade deals and the trade situation.
As Secretary of State Marco Rubio in the cabinet meeting today, Congressman Fry, look, we're talking about the Afghans we let in. We're talking about the Somalian corruption in Minnesota. We've got people on college campuses we're worried about. What's your view right now on sort of the mass migration crisis in the United States and how the administration's handling it?
Handling it great. I think the numbers speak for themselves. And I go back to, I think it was a Teddy Roosevelt discussion about immigrating into the United States. And, we've always been a welcoming people, but one of the things that requires that if you're going to come to this country, maybe pursue a path of citizenship, is you also assimilate into the culture, because you can't have all these disparate groups, you lose your national identity, you lose the ties that bind this country, that make it a special place. But some of the best people in the world that have come to this country and pursued citizenship have cast off their country of origin, their citizens. That somehow has changed, right? And so, when I went to the border a couple of years ago, Scott, I was amazed because I expected to see Central and South Americans predominantly, and there were, but there were people from Iran, there were people from China and Uzbekistan and Ukraine, and from all over the place. And we just kind of flung open the doors. But you're seeing some catastrophic results in our communities, right? Most recently, the killing of the National Guardsman in Washington, D.C. by an Afghan national who drove clear across the country to come in and commit that violent act.
Terrible.
And so, for us, we don't know who we're vetting. We have no confidence. We didn't have it last year either with Biden, but I have no confidence that they have vetted these people properly. We don't know their intentions or their backgrounds. You have so many, even people who are, I would say, Central and South American. You have the Lake and Riley Act, right? We just saw that story is horrific. We've got so many stories like this of people that we just let in with their crimes, with their problems, with all the things, and it's unsustainable. It's causing governments to have stress fractures, if you will. The services are stretched, schools are packed out, communities are overwhelmed and overrun by people who have no business being in this country to begin with because they never went through any proper channel. So I think the administration has taken the absolute right approach. It's about national security. It's about budgets and money. It's about the ability of a very generous nation to sustain this type of influx of people. We just can't do it. We can't do it anymore.
That voice you're hearing, Congressman Russell Fry from the great state of South Carolina. And on this topic, and thanks for joining us today, Russell, you just passed a bill, actually, called the Bipartisan Trafficking Survivors Relief Act. You had several people from both parties on it tackling this human trafficking issue. So congrats on getting that legislation through. We've come to the end of our time today. I appreciate Russell Fry and Brent Gardner for coming on. I'm going to be hitting the road this week. I'm heading to California, Arizona, and Texas as the Revolution of Common Sense book tour continues. Also in D.C. tonight. I understand we're having a blowout here tonight for the book, which did hit the New York Times bestseller list. Thanks for everybody who supported us. Talk to you tomorrow. It's Scott Jennings here on the Salem Radio Network.
Common sense for the American people. This is the Scott Jennings Show.